Hello, everyone, and welcome to the College Admissions Collaborative highlighting engineering and technology, or CACHET, College Fair. We're excited to have you participating in this event. We have some fantastic schools here with us today. My name is Daisha. I will be your facilitator this evening. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items to share that you'll also see on your screen. First, your microphone and your camera are off, so the panelists tonight will not be able to see or hear you. You can use the Q&A button, though, to communicate with them. So if you click that Q&A button on the bottom of your screen, you'll be able to type your questions to our presenters at any time throughout the presentation, and they can respond to you directly or answer your questions live. This is one of many sessions happening today, so be sure to check out the schedule on the website. This presentation is being recorded and will be available for you on striscan.com/cachet. I would now like to turn it over to our presenters from Worcester Polytechnic Institute.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Chapman. I'm the Director of Recruitment Partnerships for the Undergraduate Admissions Office. Delighted to be here with you to share some more information about WPI. And I'm super lucky I get to be presenting with a great WPI student named Lana. Lana, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. As you just heard, my name is Lana. I'm a current senior at WPI studying biomedical engineering with a concentration in biomaterials. I work admissions and I'm a campus tour guide, and I do a lot with music, theater, and on-campus research when it comes to my on-campus activities.
Awesome. So again, we're really excited to be able to share some information with you this evening. We are going to spend some time talking about our undergraduate program at WPI called the WPI Plan. Actually, Lana will spend some time talking about that. We'll talk about what it's like to be a student at WPI in our community, be a part of our campus, a little bit about student life as well. And then we'll talk about the admissions process. I do want to remind you, please ask questions through our Q&A. We are happy to answer questions throughout. And if you have questions that you want to ask at a later point, you can always email us at admissions@wpi.edu. We're happy to help at any time. But without further ado, I want to talk a little bit about just a quick overview of WPI. So WPI has been around for a really long time. We're the 5th oldest science, technology, engineering school in the United States. And we're kind of like a smaller WPI village, right? So it's a really lovely campus, about 33 buildings on 95 acres. So it's spread out, but it is in the city of Worcester, which is the 2nd largest in New England. Smaller to medium-ish size, depending on what that number means to you. So it's less than 5,000 undergraduate students. We also have master's and PhD students as part of our community as well. It is roughly 40% women, about 14% underrepresented students of color, and about 9% international. And again, in our community, it is really great. It's a good opportunity to be able to get to know folks from different backgrounds than your own. Because of the size, it lends to that being a very welcoming and easy environment for that. One thing that you're probably here to learn more about is the STEM side of life. So we're definitely known for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, but we have over 50 different areas of study at WPI. And the one thing I do want to mention is that when students are considering WPI, when they're applying, they're really applying to the university. They're not applying to a specific program or major or school of something. You're applying to WPI, and it's open enrollment to whatever major or department or program that you are considering. Students declare a major going into the 2nd half of their 1st year at WPI. So because of that, we know about 20% of our students actually will enroll at WPI undecided or undeclared, still trying to work things out, but knowing that they're going to find something that is a good match for them. We definitely see a lot of students that explore a little bit, change their majors a little bit, but it's very flexible, and that's something that we want students to know. We definitely know that our advising program is strong. The opportunity to explore majors and do work that matters really helps students feel like this is the best fit for them. So we have a strong retention rate from 1st to 2nd year. It's 95%. And our graduation rate in 4 years is just about 84%, which is really good, way higher than the national average. So again, students feel pretty confident they found the right fit for them very early on. It's common for students to consider things like double majoring, minoring, double minoring, triple minoring, doing an accelerated bachelor's to master's degree program. We have a philosophy at WPI called more and for. So we want students to take advantage of as many opportunities as they can during a traditional 4-year span of their bachelor degree by doing all of these other things, by exploring majors, adding in different degrees that they might be considering, and possibly doing things like internships and co-ops, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well. Low student to faculty ratio, low average class size, it's about 25. And some of our larger classes are those introductory to type things like intro to computer science or Chem 1010, or something in the calc sequence early on might be busier, but they break into smaller sessions once a week on Wednesdays in our conference settings, but also get smaller as you go. So that's definitely important to know as well. Really important to know that our campus is a traditional New England looking school with gorgeous brick and mortar, and then some really state-of-the-art cool stuff where students can really stretch out and explore in their major and learn how the skills that they need to be good in the field that they have selected. And we have some new buildings coming up, such as the Smart World, which is a space for more classrooms, more student-centric services like the registrar's office, accessibility services, academic advising, those types of things. So we're really excited for that to be coming online sometime in the upcoming year. So I'm going to turn it over to Lana, who's going to describe for you the WPI plan, our undergraduate programming. I'm going to play Vanna White behind the scenes here and with these slides. So I will be on top of that, I promise.
Great, thank you, Julie. So just to sort of explain what the WPI plan is, this is how our faculty and administration decided to deliver our academics to best bring up that next generation of STEM students and problem solvers and creative thinkers out in the workforce. So I'll be explaining what this plan means for us as students over these next couple slides. Thank you, Julie. So the first part of our WPI plan is our academic calendar. Most other universities typically run on a semester-based system, so 2 14-week-long terms throughout the school year. Here at WPI, we decided to run in quarters, so during a year, you'll have 4 7-week terms. During each of these terms, you're only expected to take 3 classes at a time, so that means you only have to worry about 3 homework assignments at a time, or 3 exams, or 3 projects, nothing more than that, really. These courses are unabridged, which does sound initially pretty scary, as it's that 14 weeks worth of information in half of that time. But that being said, speaking from experience, it's really not as bad as it sounds. Our classes meet more frequently throughout the week, be it in a lecture period, a lab period, or also those conferences that Julie mentioned. As for how these work out calendar-wise, you'll see that we kick off our year in A term, which runs late August through mid-October. We'll get about 10 days of break until we come back for our B term, which runs late October through mid-December. We get about a whole month off for our winter break, and then we'll come back for C term, which runs mid-January through early March. Another 10 days off for our actual break again before we finish out the year in D term, which runs mid-March through early May. A couple more things I want to discuss about this actual calendar. Number one, all of our breaks here at WPI are true breaks. So what do I mean by that? In regards to those 10 days or that whole month you have off, that time is meant solely for you as the student to best take care of yourself and prepare for those next 7 weeks. So you don't have to worry about finishing up a take-home exam during that time or doing a homework assignment for that class that starts over that next term. Instead, you get to spend time catching up on any like TV shows you really missed, or if you're like me, eating a lot of homemade food, or if you're other students, that might mean doing about 7 weeks worth of laundry. The other thing I want to highlight here is we have a pretty long summer break, and there's, I'd say, 2 main things that our students will do during that time. Number one, we have that optional E-term, which runs June through July. So in regards to that more and 4 that Julie mentioned, this is a really great time for students to pick up any extra courses to sort of get a leg up on their actual scheduling and planning. So that's just one way that a lot of students will fit in that double major or that 4 or 5 year BS-MS. I'd say that the most common thing our students will do during this time, though, is actually pursuing real work opportunities. Typically in the form of internships, which are a shorter term position, but still full-time with an actual company where you're making money, getting some really great connections, and of course, getting that valuable work experience. But another option, which I'd say is less common with our student body, would actually be co-ops, which are a 6 to 8 month experience. So you do have to take some time off from school. That being said, with some careful planning, you can fit that experience in without having to delay your graduation date. And I will discuss one of those tools in just a little bit. But before I do that, I want to point out the second part of our WPI plan, and that is our non-punitive grading policy. As an undergraduate student with us, your transcript will contain one of 4 letter grades for those overall courses. And those are A's, B's, C's, or an NR, which is short for no record. Here at WPI, we don't offer pluses or minuses. We only have straight letter grades. As we found, this helps to encourage a more collaborative environment rather than a competitive one. Once you get out into the workforce as an actual STEM student, you'll notice you're not trying to outcompete your colleagues 24/7. So why should you be doing that while you're pursuing a degree? As for that NR, if you're scoring below a C in a course, you're probably not retaining that information in a way that's going to benefit you in the long run. We don't want to punish you for that. Instead, we'd rather give this NR, which is a gentle reminder to either retake that course or to find something that can equivalently satisfy that same requirement. If you do receive that NR, it's really just a safety net for our students. So there's no record of it ever showing up on your transcript. It doesn't weight in your GPA, nothing like that. So if you have a bad term for personal reasons, you don't really have to worry about that showing up in your transcript and being a potential red flag to employers. As for the third part of our WPI plan, which is our flexible curriculum, a couple things I want to discuss here. Number one, we are a Polytechnic institute. So if you're interested in doing some quick math with me, 3 classes a term for 4 years means that on average, our students will complete 48 courses with us. You can look up any of our WPI undergraduate program tracking sheets to see what exactly is required on a major by major basis. On most of these sheets, you'll notice that there's only 45 course slots. So what happens to those other 3 classes? Well, number one, if you receive an NR, no worries. You have 3 of those already built into your schedule. Number 2, that is already 3 more classes set aside for that more than 4. And number 3, if you are really interested in that co-op, you already have a whole term set aside just for that actual experience at no extra cost to your scheduling. On that same sheet, you'll notice we don't hand our students a pre-prescribed schedule. In fact, the sheet itself is pretty much blank, as here at WPI, we only have what are called general requirements. For an example, I'm a biomedical engineering student and I had to take 6 math courses, 2 chemistry courses, 2 physics courses, and a bunch of other things. Now, WPI didn't sit me down and tell me what exactly I needed to take to actually satisfy those requirements. One of my favorite examples is as a biomaterials concentration, I thought that organic chemistry would be a really good thing to add to my actual courses. So I actually took organic chemistry instead of those general chemistry sequences to satisfy that requirement. So that's just one way that we really encourage our students to figure out what they want to do and to figure out what will best prepare them for that. The last thing I want to highlight here is that we don't have prerequisites at WPI. Little interesting. Instead, we have what are called recommended backgrounds for courses. Let's say you are a first-year student and you want to take Calculus 4 that very first term on campus. Great, we are so glad to hear that. We would obviously strongly recommend that you have the academic credits to back up Calculuses 1 through 3, but maybe you did a lot of Khan Academy in your spare time, so you feel that you're ready for that upper level challenge, in which case you are more than welcome to do that. And the same can be said for any of our classes on campus. If you're a first-year computer science student, you can hop into a junior level course and technically nobody can stop you. The last thing I want to highlight, though, is advanced credits. I'm sure some of you are wondering, hey, I'm in AP courses, or hey, I'm in IB courses, so I'm putting in a lot of extra work. Can I get credits for that? And the answer is yes. We accept 4s and 5s on the AP exam, or 6s and 7s on the higher level international baccalaureate. If you want to see what exactly those equate to, you'll see all of that information on our website. And this leads me into the 4th and final part of our WPI plan. Thank you, Julie. This is our project-based curriculum. If you were to hunt down any of our students and say, hey, what is your favorite part of learning at WPI? 9 times out of 10, you'd probably hear a student pick one of their actual project experiences. Now, on your screen, you'll be able to see 4 of our main ones that we like to highlight, but I always like to emphasize that project-based learning and hands-on learning is integrated into the classroom from day 1. So you're going to have a bunch of other smaller projects along the way, but these are our 4 favorites to sort of give a shout out to. Of these 4, only one of them is optional, and that is our Great Problem Seminar, or our GPS. This is exclusive to our first-year students, and it's a chance for them to figure out what it means to work in a group, or what it means to conduct research, or what it's like learning how to present. If you didn't have the chance to do that in high school, no worries. You can pick that up right within that first year on campus and then use them for any of those later project experiences as well. These typically aren't done in a major specific fashion. In fact, you'll pick something that's more social sciencey or humanitarian based work. So something potentially like Feed the World. We don't expect our first year students to solve the entire global hunger crisis within that first year of pursuing a degree. But we do know that you can look at that larger puzzle and figure out, oh, looks like Julie's gone. And she's back potentially. Hi again, Julie.
I'm back, my apologies.
Oh.
Just quickly go back to what you were talking about.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
So I'll just continue chatting about that GPS experience. As a first year student, we expect you to look at that larger puzzle and pick out a smaller piece to solve. So one example of this actually comes from our Heal the World course. We had a group of students who decided to look at sub-Saharan African plants and then derive a hand sanitizer actually utilizing those ingredients. This was pretty ingenious as it helped with hygiene and sanitation within those communities, while also encouraging them to use more sustainable and local ingredients as they did it. The next thing I want to talk about is the humanities and arts on campus. Surprisingly enough, our largest department is actually the humanities and arts, and that is pretty intentional as we do have a requirement here. Now, that doesn't mean that as a student who's really interested in STEM that we expect you to love English and history. In fact, if you never want to take those courses ever again, you don't have to, and I am speaking from experience there. So what you'll do is you'll take 5 courses in the humanities and arts. You'll do 3 in what's called your depth, so something that you're super excited and passionate about. 2 in what's called your breadth, so something that you might want to go off and explore a little bit more. So after you complete those 5 classes, you'll take a 6th one, and this will actually be your final project. And that can be a capstone where you produce something, or an inquiry seminar where you're sort of researching something and do a deep dive. For me, I was a music depth, so I actually spent 7 weeks arranging a medley of music from Avatar: The Last Airbender for a string ensemble. So as a sophomore at WPI, I was actually able to hear my own music rehearsed live by one of our performing ensembles, which was such a cool experience for me. And that's just one of many things that a student can do during their time here. The next project I want to discuss is the IQP, or the Interactive Qualifying Project. This is typically completed in your junior year, so that 3rd year on campus with us. And this is sort of like the GPS in the fact that it's not going to be major specific. Students will take a look at those same social science or humanitarian-based projects and really hammer away at those for 7 weeks. For me, this past school year, I worked with a nonprofit organization out in Hangzhou, China, to actually research support groups, that's the name for them, support groups right here in the US to figure out how we can best convert that into an online experience to help with mental health and well-being. Now, I am definitely not a psychologist, and if I'm being honest, I'm also not a computer scientist. In fact, I personally cannot code to save my life, but that is the point of that junior year project. Number one, we want students to see how that more specialized technical background can be used in other areas of study, while also encouraging students to work in interdisciplinary teams. Thinking ahead to what it means to be in the workforce as a STEM major, you're never going to be on a team of just biomedical engineers or just architectural engineers. People are going to be coming from all different backgrounds, so you once again should get used to doing that while you're here in college. Now, the last project I want to discuss is the MQP, or the Major Qualifying Project. This is our senior year capstone research project at WPI, so it's your last chance to sort of take all of that learning and wrap it up with a pretty little bow to then show off to potential employers. So as a senior, you'll have a really great example of something that you're passionate about and a problem you've already solved within 7 weeks or a year. So for me as a biomedical engineering major, I'm really passionate about making healthcare more accessible. And if that means making it less scary, great, I am all for that. So one thing I'm doing this year is I'm working on a team of biochemists as well as biomedical engineering majors to develop a non-invasive diagnostic test for endometriosis. Endometriosis is when the lining of the uterus grows in places it shouldn't. It's extremely painful and also really hard to diagnose. On average, it delays proper treatment by about 7 years. So my team will be working to find a test that we can make to analyze biomarkers in urine. So our goal is to make something sort of like an over-the-counter pregnancy test. And so that brings us into the last part about our projects here. and that is our Global Projects Program. I'm sure some of you were caught a little off guard by the fact that I just sort of casually dropped in Hangzhou, China to that last slide. And I'm sure you were going, hey, what's that all about? And the answer is that is our Global Projects Program at work. When it comes to those two upper level projects, so that IQP and MQP, or those junior and senior year experiences, they have a 3-course equivalency. So that means that you can take a whole term to focus just on that project, which enables you to go to any of our 50+ project centers that we have across the globe. I'm sure a lot of you have noticed as you started to research what it means to be a STEM major in college, you've probably noticed that it's fairly uncommon to study abroad and still graduate successfully on time within 4 years. But here at WPI, we've built that into your actual schedule because we know that's important to a lot of students. This isn't your typical study abroad experience, so you're not going to be going and taking classes at another university that you can complete totally fine on our very own school grounds. Instead, you're working on what's like a 7-week internship. You'll be working 9 to 5 on weekdays, leaving the weekends and the evenings to you, which means that you can take that time to go and explore the surrounding areas and really immerse yourself in that culture during those 7 weeks. Now, we understand that college itself is already expensive to think about. And so adding on a study abroad experience can really add on to that price tag, but we don't want money to be the final barrier between you and this really great experience. So a really great initiative that our current president, Dr. Lori Leshin, has introduced is our Global Scholarship Program. And this guarantees up to $5,000 to help alleviate the costs associated with studying abroad. If you do receive that full $5,000, it's typically more than enough to cover the cost of a project site in its entirety for most of the sites that we actually offer. I've been chatting with you folks for quite some time now, so we do just want to show you a quick little video to sort of summarize the WPI experience. Julie, I don't think you enabled the audio when you screen shared. You're muted. Huh? Can you unmute? I don't know what you're saying right now. Here we go. There we go.
What I found different from my high school was that at WPI, everyone is there because they love to learn.
Project opportunities are built into all 4 years of the WPI curriculum.
My name is Marco Villar. I'm from San Diego, California, and I innovate building materials. What I would like to go into is finding alternative methods that make a building less harmful to the environment. I knew that with WPI's project-based curriculum, I'd be able to get that hands-on experience. You get the chance to apply what you learned in a classroom out onto the field.
I'm Bree, and I innovate infant respiratory rate monitors. For biomedical engineering design class, you're presented with a problem. So ours was to create a device that will help prevent sudden infant death syndrome. It's so incredible to have something that I can look at and say, I did that. I created this in 7 weeks.
My name is Chelsea Ross Miller. I'm from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I innovate regenerative medicine. I've wanted to be a doctor since I was 13. It's one of those few things in my life that hasn't changed. So I didn't want to go to college where it was going to be back to Scantron tests. I wanted to go to a place where I could actually do something with what I was learning. You really have that opportunity all the time to be innovative and to apply your knowledge. And so that's important to me, even getting my biology degree, to be working towards something that's going to be benefiting healthcare in the long run.
My name is John. I'm from New Jersey, and I innovate robotics. Frankly, the whole robotics program itself is innovative. We think of robotics like a 3-legged stool. There's one leg that's the mechanical engineering side, one leg that's the electrical and computer engineering side, and one leg that's the computer science side. You become really well-rounded, and that's what companies love. I never really thought that I was going to be building robots from day one in my robotics class, but I was.
In their junior year, students embark on the interactive project, what we call the IQP. About 90% of our students do their IQP off campus at locations all around the globe.
I have been working in a community called Machiniwa. We are located in Cape Town, South Africa. Right now, I am standing in one of the community members' shacks. These shacks are amazing, but there's no light. They're all metal, so how is any light gonna get in, ever? We started sketching out some ideas, and I'm still blown away by the fact that a bottle of water, bleach, and just put it in a hole in your roof can allow so much light into a shack that you would be able to replace a 50-watt light bulb with this bottle of water. It's incredible. It's what the community really wanted, and it's a new and innovative way to do it.
Welcome to Venice. This is the measuring stick that's used to measure the water level. These are actually devices that we made ourselves.
The work here was really giving Venice a way to monitor their canals, and Venice's canals are like their roads. It's how they get around, it's how they transport things. IQPs will do that. They give these cities and these countries ways to improve how they're doing things.
The best thing about being a WPI student is that you're finally with a community of people that have the same passion and values that you do.
They may not realize it, but they're changing the world as their college students. They don't have to wait until they're out of college to change the world.
You honestly have the chance to make the change that you want to make.
I'm gonna try to improve my community, and then eventually, who knows, I will change the world.
We're no longer students, we're thinkers, we're researchers, and we're innovators pushing the world to become something different and something better.
We innovate everything.
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 All right, so I always love showing that video because it's one thing getting to hear from Julie and I, who are current counselors and students, well, current counselor and student, but also an entirely different thing to hear from students who have already finished their time here and can look back and figure out what really stood out to them about this experience. Just to summarize some really great points that they all made, we love having these projects because it allows us to take what we've learned in a class and then see what that means in the real world. Here at WPI, we're pretty big into theory and practice, as that is quite literally our motto. So we want to make sure you're getting all the proper formulas and equations while also seeing what that means in the context of an actual real world problem. Additionally, it allows us to build up our confidence, to develop our teamwork skills and presenting skills, things that you don't get from sitting in a classroom all day long. And more often than not, these projects are sponsored by real companies, nonprofits, and sometimes even government agencies. So as undergraduate students, we're getting some really invaluable sneak peeks into what's expected from us when we eventually go off and enter the workforce. Now, all that being said, I'm going to pass it back right on over to Julie, who's going to discuss some fantastic on-campus resources.
Thank you so much, Lana. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the services that the WPI Career Development Center does provide for its students from the second that they get on campus. Really important for our students to feel prepared and ready for opportunities that might be coming their way, not just after graduation, but while they're a student at WPI. So as Lana mentioned, lots of opportunities to do things like internships and co-op experiences, any way to immerse yourself in professional experiences and get those opportunities to make sure that you're skilled in the degrees that you're attaining is what WPI is all about. So we do have recruiters that come to campus every year in the fall and in the spring in our large career fair settings. We also have daily opportunities, weekly opportunities, virtual opportunities. So lots of ways to connect with some very well-known, common named employers that students are excited to hook up with, folks like Raytheon and Apple, and Amazon, Johnson & Johnson, Boston Scientific, you name it. Our students definitely have some really phenomenal opportunities with these different employers. We have a really great report that we provide every year through our Career Development Center website called the WPI Career Outcomes. What I like about this particular report is it breaks it down by major. So you can learn about what the employers were for that graduating year for that particular major, what grad school students went to, and the average starting salary per major. So right now on our website, we're through 2020, but we'll have 2021 up there very soon. So if you're considering something like bioinformatics or aerospace engineering or something very specific and you want to see more about that particular degree, I encourage you to check out the WPI career outcomes. You can just Google that. Overall, our students tend to do really well. Our job placement rate after graduation is about 95% in the student's field. And our average starting salary is quite high. It's nearing $73,000 across all of the disciplines. And really important to know that this service that the Career Development Center provides is a lifelong service. And they get a lot of recognitions for the three big things you want to see from a Career Development Center: job placement rate, average starting salary, but also the internships and co-ops, as Lana mentioned. So I do want to talk just quickly about that. Internship wise, it's super common for students to do at least one internship during their time at WPI, if not more. They're paid very well, about $20 an hour, plentiful, lots of opportunities. Sometimes students do more than one in a summer. It's not uncommon to maybe do one during the academic year as well. Co-op experiences, as Lana mentioned, you're stepping away from the academic environment. It's typically more 6 to 8 months in length, utilizing those summer months as well. So it's about 100 or so WPI students a year will do a co-op experience. You're still a full-time WPI student, but you know that you are getting a more extensive job experience, and that is paid exceedingly well. It's typically around $25,000 during that time frame. So students often will do a co-op experience, and it will not delay graduation because of the flexibility with things like AP credit or the ability to have just a little bit more wiggle room in their schedule to take advantage of summer opportunities through coursework online or at another institution as well. So our students are definitely able to do co-op experiences and still graduate in 4 years if they'd like to do that. So I want to talk a little bit about life at WPI, because I know some of you may be from very far away and not familiar at all with Worcester, with what it might be like to be a WPI student. We are definitely a residential campus. First-year students, by and large, live on the WPI campus, and we guarantee housing for first-year students. We do not guarantee for all 4 years, but it's common for students to live on campus for more than 1 year and could live on campus for 4 years if they would like to do that. It is just very common for students to consider living off campus as well, because there's a lot of opportunities really close to the WPI main campus and our extension at Gateway Park, which we'll talk about in a bit, where students can live very close to the action. They don't feel like they're missing out. But the residence halls on campus, there's about 15 or so, with more coming online in the next year or so. Most students first year are living in doubles or triples, but there are opportunities over 4 years to live in singles and quads and apartment style and all sorts of different opportunities. Some are super close to academic buildings, some might be slightly further away, but nothing is further than about a 10 to 15 minute walk between academic building and residence hall, right? So that's really important to know that it's pretty compact. Lots of great places to eat right on our campus. Two large dining facilities, Morgan Dining Hall, which is traditional, and then the Goat's Head Pub, which is a pub style dining with lots of different options, and a Starbucks and all sorts of things over there. We have a food court. We have a couple cafes on campus. There's grab and go options, and then plenty of places near campus where you can use your WPI ID card to swipe and buy meals nearby. We have general neutral housing. We have gender neutral bathrooms. We do have some special communities where students can live with their first generation. So lots of opportunities for our students to really feel comfortable in their living environment at WPI for sure. A little bit about kind of the fun side of life. Lana, do you want to talk a little bit about this, since you're involved in a lot of very
Yeah, sure. So before I even talk about the offerings, I do just want to point out that we have a pretty active and engaged community, as that's sort of just our culture here on campus. So it's far more common to find students in groups, multiple groups such as 2 or 3, rather than students who are in none. As for what we have to offer, we are an NCAA Division III school with 10 men's and 10 women's varsity sports teams. If you don't necessarily want to play sports at that commitment level, no worries. We also have club and intramural level sports. In case you didn't know, club is WPI versus other schools, while intramural is strictly WPI versus WPI. Now, if you're like me and you don't have a single athletic bone in your body, no worries, still a lot you can do. We have 235 plus clubs and organizations. We have really traditional ones like Greek life, honor societies, chess clubs, whatever you can really think of, all the way to some super niche interests, such as our 2 cheese clubs, one for making and one for tasting. We also have an underwater hockey team, so feel free to use your imagination there as to what that looks like. Spoiler alert, not the most exciting spectator sport, but one of the office favorites this past school year has been our lettuce club. They meet once a school year just to race to see who can consume an entire head of lettuce as fast as possible, and winning that contest means you win the presidency for the next school year. So when we say that there's something for everyone, we genuinely mean it. If you can think of a club that you want to see on campus that you don't have, it's pretty easy to start up your own official club through our student activities office. It's just a small petition with a faculty advisor that you got to find, and then boom, you're official.
I personally like the lock picking club. That's my favorite. So I do want to mention a little bit about Worcester because again, I suspect that some of you may not be anywhere near Worcester, Massachusetts, and some of you might be familiar, but as a college town, it is very different. We're the 2nd largest city in New England. There are a bunch of other colleges right within the city limits and some just outside. So there's over 38,000 college students that come to the area every single academic year. This is a really good picture of our campus from an overview shot. What I like about it is it does show that we are on a very green side of the city. We're in a residential area. We're in between lots of really lovely neighborhoods, but we're also in between 2 big parks. One you can see there with the water, that's Institute Park, and then another that's kind of on the other side called Elm Park. It was one of the first national parks in the US. We're in the cultural district, so we're near some really great museums and historical societies as well. And then kind of tucked all around here, you know, where WPI is kind of the main focus of what you're seeing just beyond those athletic fields and the tennis courts and kind of smack dab in the middle there. There's no main roads driving through, but then there are some really good pockets where you can grab a bite to eat or shop, or there's a supermarket. There's some great coffee places, there's some good Thai food, burger joint, whatever you need. It is pretty much right there within walking distance. But we are close to some other locations. If you wanted to explore other cities like Providence, Rhode Island, or Boston, Boston's only about an hour and a half or so. We're near the beaches of New England and the mountains up in Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. And we're only about 3 hours away from New York City too, which is pretty cool. So it's pretty easy to get down there. We have WPI sponsored trips all the time. The city of Worcester has even more than what's in our neck of the woods near WPI. There's so many places to catch a game or a show, or go to the Worcester Farmers Market or Public Market, or you know, shop, or there's just a lot of great places, and that's something that Worcester's getting a lot of recognition for. So we're really proud of that. It's great to be able to explore the city just a little bit more as a college student for sure. So I want to spend the last minutes that we have, and again, if you have questions, definitely feel free to drop them in so that Lana and I can help you out for sure. But I do want to talk about the admissions process and kind of a little bit more about what WPI is looking for from our candidates. So this particular slide shows you the full menu of options. We offer it all. We've got early decision, early action, and regular decision. So just to kind of explain more about what that means at WPI, early decision, as many of you might know, early decision is applying early and knowing that you're going to be asked to commit early if you're offered admission. So that is you signaling to WPI, you are my top choice. WPI is my top choice. I know that I'm going to go there if I am offered a spot. What's important to know here, though, is that students that are applying early decision should be comfortable with the knowledge that they can afford WPI. So those are some conversations that you're going to want to be having as a family as well, to make sure that this is a doable prospect for you should you be offered admission. That's a pretty tall ask for a lot of folks. So we get about 11,000 applications a year, and only about 300 or so are going to come in early decision. And that is because many folks are not 100% sure that they're ready to commit on the early side. So we totally get it. Early action is applying early to find out earlier, but you're not committing early. And for many students applying to WPI, that is the better way to go, because they know that they can shop around a little bit. They want to see how it shakes out at some other universities. They want to see what financial opportunities might be coming their way from other universities. And we totally get that. So between early action round 1 and round 2, more than 50% of our applications are coming in between those options. And you can see when the notification deadline is, but also that you wouldn't have to enroll until May 1st if you decided the WPI was the right match for you. And then regular decision wise, that's a great option for students that maybe want to showcase more of their senior year. They need to spend a little bit more time with their application. We totally get it. We know that more applications are coming between the earlies and the regular decisions, so we will not make all of our decisions on the early side. We're a common application exclusive campus, so you can only use a common application, but it is free. And that is where we start. So you are responsible for helping us understand who you are through the common application, through the extracurriculars, through your essay, and through a special question designed by WPI where we ask you, why is WPI a good match for you? Why are you thinking you're going to be a good match for WPI? So spend some time with that particular question. We need 2 recommendations, one from a teacher and one from a counselor, but it's not limited to just those 2. And then we also can't wait to see your high school transcript. We are looking to see some minimums that you've completed 4 years of English, 2 years of lab science, and 4 years of math, including pre-calculus. And we do want to see that you've taken advantage of some of the tougher courses that might be available at your high school. So not just in the STEM areas, but that's definitely going to prepare you better for WPI if you're taking honors or AP courses, but it's not required. And then as you can see from the slide, we do not accept SATs or ACTs. They do not help WPI in determining who might be a good match for our university, for the project work, for the opportunity to be innovative and collaborative. Those numbers don't tell us anything. These little bubbles on this particular slide, I think, are very helpful in terms of helping you to see what we're trying to work with. What we're looking for is students that are excited to be creative and up for a challenge and looking to be innovative and looking to work with others and collaborate. That's super important. These are some averages at the bottom for admitted students. On average, students are getting A's and B's, B's and A's, and some of the tougher courses at their high school. So that's a 3.92 on a 4.0 scale, but really it's basically an A- B+ GPA, wherever that might be for you in the world. And if your high school is to rank, it's typically in the top 10% or so. And then if you're going to be applying for need-based aid, you do want to submit 2 forms, the FAFSA form and the CSS profile form. About 75% of our students are receiving need-based aid. Nearly everyone is receiving an academic merit scholarship though, and those range from about $10,000 a year to $20,000 a year, and they're guaranteed all 4 years. So that's definitely important to know as well. I believe that's kind of sort of the tail end of our presentation here. Again, I want to mention that if you have any questions, please email us at admissions@wpi.edu. There's one of us counselors on deck pretty much every day to answer questions. And if we can't answer them or you want to speak directly with a student, then we will definitely match you up with a student like Miss Lana to answer questions that maybe we can't or might be better answered by a student. So definitely let us know though if you have any questions. Now we do have a couple of minutes left and we're happy to answer some live. I know earlier one of the students had asked me, do I have to take every difficult STEM class in my high school? And the answer is no, you don't have to take every difficult class, but we'd like to see a couple of difficult classes or more. I mean, on average, students are starting at WPI, haven't taken advantage of some tougher courses. If AP was offered, probably 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of those. So it just depends. And we look at every school in the context of their environment and what was available to them at their high school. So it's very specific to one student at a time, not comparing multiple applicants at once. I do see a question, are all incoming freshmen required to live on campus? In a normal non-pandemic year, yes, we were requiring first-year students to live on campus, but there was an appeal process. So there were some exemptions that students can work with residential services on that. But by and large, it's important for our students to be living on the WPI campus to get the full experience. So really good question for sure. And we'll see what happens this upcoming year, but about 97% of first-year students were living on campus. I think we have exactly 1 minute. So I do want to say thank you for listening to us and learning more about WPI. And I want to thank Lana for joining me and saving me as I was having some technical difficulties.
Awesome. Well, thank you to Julie and Lana for your wonderful presentation. I am going to share my screen and go over a couple of final notes before we wrap up today. So when you close the screen for this event, there will be a brief 5-question survey that we'd like for you to fill out. We appreciate any feedback you can provide to us. All right, okay, there we go. And this session has been recorded, so you'll be able to find the video recording for this session, as well as any others you are interested in from today's session. You'll be able to view those at strivescan.com/cache. We thank you for attending and hope you have a wonderful evening.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.